The school bully approaches the boy, having heard he is a transfer student from America and assuming he is wealthy. He demands money from him.
If you're American, you must be rich.
Wow. You must have read some pretty big books.
The boy, however, stands firm and instead plots to extort them. The outcome is predictable. The boy's sister, who attends the same school, suggests getting revenge for him. However, the boy reveals that I am the son of a mafia boss, and I take my revenge like a true mafia. He has already gathered information about who is who at the school and is devising a plan. Guy with the cap is the rugby team captain. He'd do anything to get good grades in math. There's only one guy who could get the gear he needs, and that's the engineer's son over there, he says. With a difficult exam coming up in 2 weeks, Warren gives the straight-A student a few collectible cards he has been wanting in exchange for the exam answers. He then passes those answers to a burly boy, asking him to help deal with the bully. Yet, one person's strength is far from sufficient. Warren pretends to be injured and sneaks into the school infirmary to steal some pills, which he uses to help several athletes ace their physical test. Once they are gathered, they deal a harsh blow to the bully and his gang. The burly boy lands a particularly heavy hit. His name is Warren Blake, hailing from a gangster family. His father is a mafia boss, which explains how he approaches problems in a mafia-like manner. They fled to escape the hunt of rival gangsters. With his wife Maggie and their children Belle and Warren. The constant moving and changing of names is due to Don Lutches, who attempted to kill Fred years ago as they were rival mafia bosses. Fred struck back clapping his wife. Since then, Lucas' men have been seeking revenge, placing a $2 million bounty on their heads, resulting in numerous assassins hunting the family. The mafia family is set to leave America and relocate to Normandy, France, under the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Witness Protection Program. The family arrives at their new home in the dead of night. After restoring power, Fred pretends to explore the house but secretly retrieves a body from the trunk of their car to bury it in the backyard. The next morning, everyone is ready to start fresh. Maggie ventures out to explore the small town. She then heads to a convenience store to buy groceries, where she inadvertently overhears the clerk and some customers insulting Americans, thinking Maggie doesn't understand them since they're speaking in French. Furious, she grabs some bottles of wine and a gasoline can from the shelf, tosses them into the stockroom, and lights a match, throwing it in as well. She hurriedly pays for her groceries and leaves the store just before the trap explodes. She then visits a church, seizing the opportunity to befriend the priest. Meanwhile, Belle and Warren head to their new school, where Warren quickly finds himself in trouble with some bullies and deals with them in a mafia manner. After school, Belle starts walking home when a car with 4 boys begins following her, inviting her to join them. Initially, Belle declines, but she soon gets lost in town and decides to accept the ride. However, the boys don't take her home. Instead, they lead her to a lakeside hangout. When Belle asks to be taken back home, the leader tells her to relax and then loosens the straps of her dress. His words laden with innuendo, just taking a little break. Determined not to let them get away with it, Belle grabs a tennis racket from the car and hits the boy, telling the others to show some respect for women. She then drives the boy's car back home. Later that evening, as the family gathers for dinner, the FBI agent in charge of their case, Robert Stansfield, pays them a visit, and asks about a recently missing shopkeeper. Fred claims to know nothing. So you don't know where Moritz at? No, but if you find him, you can tell him for me. I'm not going to pay for that, lobster. In reality, Fred has killed the shopkeeper for selling him seafood falsely advertised as fresh when it was actually frozen. That's the body he has stashed in the trunk. Stansfield warns him not to stir up trouble and, before leaving, tells him that the FBI agents protecting him from the house across the street are named Dio and Mimo. Later that night, Fred and his wife go to bed, and he dreams of a barbecue he hosted years ago, the occasion when Lutches chose to strike. The next day, Maggie asks Fred to check the tap water, which has turned brown. While they wait for the plumber she called, the plumber is over 40 minutes late, frustrating Fred. When the plumber arrives and tries to unnecessarily replace all the pipes in the house, Fred's temper flares. You call my wife, you pay 50% up front, and you make a new appointment. Fred ends up hitting him with a tool he found in the basement and dumps the plumber's body in his own truck, taking it to the hospital. The doctors are baffled by the multiple fractures on the man's body, which they attribute to a fall. That might explain 1 or 2, but not 12. That evening, Maggie scolds Fred for what he did to the plumber. Fred retorts by reminding her of the explosion she caused at the convenience store as retaliation.